Boy, am I excited for God of War, the TV show. I cannot believe this is happening. This is something that I thought was impossible. The idea of getting a true adaptation of a video game that would serve the original material well. And lo and behold, God of War, one of the greatest franchises in the history of video games, a franchise about the fallen god Kratos, the god of war, who seeks vengeance against the gods that have wronged him. And we are now getting the cast has been revealed. Most of the main cast has been revealed, and it has been stunning how close a lot of these actors resemble the characters that they will be portraying. So, needless to say, the God of War, this is all going to be based on God of War 2018, which is a more somber, grounded, older Kratos, the God of War, and his relationship with his son. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle that dynamic. But so far, the casting has been incredible. Ryan Hurst, Gary Bertier of the Titans, of Remember the Titans, is playing the God of War. He also plays Opie, the right-hand man of Jax in Sons of Anarchy. So that is, to me, the closest of his roles that he's played, the closest character to Kratos. He is such a just quiet, gentle giant, but absolutely menacing and fierce when he needs to be. And I'm very excited to see this. Remy, when you heard Ryan Hurst is playing Kratos, because we had like who's gonna play Kratos? Is it gonna be Paul Dano? Is it going to be Jesse Eisenberg? Like the casting for shows and movies these days is so bad. I mean, the casting in The Last of Us is pretty abysmal. So it was just like, there's no way they're going to nail the casting of this show. And then Ryan Hurst gets announced. And then it's like, wait a minute, hold on, let him cook. So what were your thoughts when you heard that Ryan Hurst is the God of War?
I was just stunned at how good of an idea it was, and that he was completely not on our radar. Like, I don't know why I didn't think of it. You need somebody of appropriate size and stature to play somebody like Kratos, and um, initially I thought somebody would. I thought like if this was 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, I would have casted Michael Jai White. I think he would have been a really solid, just for the look of Kratos, especially young Kratos, maybe. But yeah. So when they announced it, I was like, "Holy shit, that's awesome!" I was like, "I might be in. I might be in," and that was just the first person that casted. And then as the rest of it trickled in, it was like, "Holy shit, are we actually? Is this? Are they actually nailing this?" Kind of hard to believe. It feels like a fan casted cast. Like this is what you would do if you went to Reddit and somebody was like, "All right, guys, I found the perfect cast to play everybody in this to a point where it's like we're not reimagining what somebody looks like. We just found everybody that just looks like the fucking characters." Um, Stunned, absolutely stunned by the choices that they've made so far. Um, I don't know. I can't believe that we actually, and Amazon of all places, not like HBO or something. Amazon of all places is somehow putting together what it might end up being the greatest cast ever assembled for a existing product.
If you're not familiar with God of War, they originally were the first God of War game was a PlayStation 2 game from the early 2000s. There's God of War 2, God of War 3, God of War Ascension. There's been a lot of God of War games, and it's all centers around Kratos, who is just a god done wrong, and he's out for vengeance, and he's going to slaughter all the gods. He goes after all the Greek gods, and he goes after Zeus, and his journey is simply in those early 2000 games. You know what people don't realize today when you play God of War 2018, you're watching a movie quality story, like, and so it's easy to just watch it and get sunk in. when you're playing a game from 2002 and it's like polygons and pixelated, you're using your imagination to being like what it would look like if it was a movie, what it would look like if they had more technology, if they had better quality of gaming. What would it look like? Like, you're using your imagination constantly. Why do you think people got boners for Lara Croft? It wasn't because they actually thought like polygon tits look good. It was because they were imagining what it would look good if they actually had the technology to produce a Lara Croft, which ended up being Angelina Jolie. And that's amazing. And Sansa Stark, not at all as Lara Croft. That's neither here nor there. I'm getting sidetracked. Point being is that the God of War games early was Kratos being like, I am a god, I'm going to murder you. And he just was like very angry. And like, it worked for 2002, but it doesn't really translate to a movie quality the way that 2018 God of War translated with the way Kratos acts. And he's very brooding and he has so much trauma and damage. And he's trying not to pass it on to his son. But he's trying to bring his son up, and his son doesn't know that he's a god, but he is a god. And he's trying to teach him how to be a man, but also a god. It's such a wonderful father-son story, and there's so few and far between father-son stories these days. Maybe the greatest father-son of movie of all time is The Last Crusade, Indiana Jones. It's such a wonderful father-son, and so I'm very excited to see how they handle that in the modern text. So we've gotten a rollout of the actors slowly but surely, and it's just like one after another. And one big one is Alistair Duncan, who is a big character in the game. He's the head, who is a character. He's a head that gets attached to Kratos' hip and gives pearls of wisdom. He's supposed to be the smartest man in the realm, and he gives pearls of wisdom as they go. And he's a great sidekick type of character. Alistair Duncan returning. I mean, it's one of those things where you can't really recast anybody / everybody to be that was in the game to be in the movie, just because some of them are voice actors or not. They don't have the physical presence to do the show. But this guy just seems like he looks literally the exact same as his model character. And it just seems like the voice is just transcendent.
Yeah, you can't. You would have had it would not have hit if you got anybody that sounded significantly different than Mimir. It would not have, just wouldn't have landed the same way. Like that very specific Scottish accent he has, I think is very defining of the character, because that's really all he is, right? He's just a head that talks. So his voice is really important. Like his physical characteristics, really not so much. So you could have gone a different way. But it just turns out that, like, I don't know how intentional that was of making Mimir look like Alistair Duncan or vice versa. But in this case, he does look just like him. So fuck it. Why not? I'm very curious how they're going to do that. Just having a CGI head, like obviously it'll be his head in some scenes, but mostly like CG. I don't know how it's going to look. I'm sure it'll be fine. But very, very, yeah, there's just a very specific sort of tone that he brings, a lightheartedness from time to time, is, pearls of wisdom. Yeah, Alistair Duncan just knocks it out of the park, as far as a voice acting job. So I'm glad that he gets to see it through. I know it's funny because, like, yeah, again, Ryan Hurst was the voice actor for Thor and killed it, was awesome voice for Thor. So I am curious how he's going to adapt his voice, and like if he's gonna, and this is something that I do wonder about, and you know me, I am big on accentism. I think that it's really important for characters to sound like they're supposed to sound, and so far they've nailed characters looking the way they're supposed to look. Now, how are they going to sound? I don't know. I'm really hoping that Odin doesn't sound like some washed up Brooklyn gangster. Really hope that that's not where Mandy Patinkin takes him. But yeah, the how the rest of this cast sounds, I'm sure Mimir's going to sound great. Everybody else, I'm very curious. I'm very, very curious.
God of War is theatrical. That's kind of the linchpin of God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok. It's not that, obviously they're not sounding Norse, they're not doing a foreign accent, but it's American actors typically And the way it's just like Shakespeare. It's not necessarily that you do the proper accent as much as it is that you get the tone and you get the theatricality of the story right. And that's why Kratos works so well, because the way he talks, he has an American voice, but he talks very like, boy, this is like the way he presents himself. You get into the story and it works. Thor with Ryan Hurst. So for those that don't know, Ryan Hurst plays Thor in the video games, and now he's playing Kratos, the main character, but he plays the antagonist in the second video game. And his voice works because he's very dark, and you just buy him as this big hulking threat. And that was a problem for me and Rembo as well. In God of War Ragnarok, they finally reveal who they tease in the first game, and then they finally reveal Odin, and he's this small little I can't remember the actor, God forbid, but he's the guy from The West Wing. He's in a bunch of movies, but he just plays like a smarmy, like, hey, like this is I'm a journalist and I can find stories, or I'm a White House correspondent.
I can cut you a deal.
Yeah, I can find you a deal. You want a Honda for $2,000? I mean, like he just sounds like that. I mean, it's just like, I'm not saying you have to be MCU. You don't have to be MCU Thor. You don't have to be MCU. Like that's, I think the problem is that typically we the masses, when you say Thor or Loki or any of these characters, you're immediately like, yeah, the guy from Marvel. But they don't have to be that, clearly. And everyone from the game is a bad version, kind of a dark version of that character, closer to the real mythology, where they weren't like heroes. They were more just like gods, and they looked at people as peons. So who cares? But that being said, the way they handled Odin, he just did not seem like that big of a threat. He didn't seem that interesting. And Mandy Patinkin from Princess Bride, You Killed My Father, Prepare to Die. That guy, I mean, he has the look, the presence. I feel like he is a much better fit for Odin, and I'm very excited to see what he does with this character. Yeah, I'm super stoked to see Mandy Patinkin back in this role.
Yeah, playing the Allfather. That's I again did not like most of these people. I would never have thought of them in that role, but as soon as I heard it, I was like, bought in, love it. Yeah, most of these people I have no fucking idea who they are. Like, I think I might know Teresa Palmer from something, maybe. But like, obviously the young kid that they just announced to play Atreus, no idea who that is. He's a very, very young child. Olafur Olafsson. I have seen in True Detective, and he has some good scenes.
I can see your soul at the edges of your eyes. It's corrosive, like acid. You got a demon, little man. And I don't like your face. It makes me want to do things to it.
I think he's in Severance. I haven't seen that, but he has I love that they're pursuing, mythologically accurate, giant beard, round, imposing body, and he's got a good deep voice. There's some really good scenes from True Detective with him where he is scary, so I think he's going to nail that aspect of Thor. And that's the thing that I think these games do really well is, even though there's gods of all different shapes and sizes, they really nail the presence and the like off-putting, uneasy nature of gods, where it's just like they're all kind of fucked up and like evil or just bad dickheads. And so like Balder and Thor are polar opposites. Balder's like thin and slender, and Thor is much larger than Kratos. Like, I would think he's around 7 feet tall, but they're obviously it'll be a little bit different in the movies, or show. But they all have that same, except for Odin, they all have that same level of just like, you're just really not quite sure if they're about to like try and murder you, or if they might be useful, and on your side, sort of thing. So I Yeah, Heimdall, obviously in the games, is also like a main protagonist or an antagonist. And so that is kind of the essence that I'm hoping that they carry over into this new show, is just like that uneasy tension of like, yeah, you do not trust the gods. And I don't know what to compare them to in real life. Maybe it's just like if you were just if you walked into a bar and you saw a bunch of Hell's Angels there, like maybe they're not gonna fuck with you, but like you would just not feel comfortable around them no matter what's going on, right? So like that is an important aspect of this show that I hope they nail.
Well said. Yeah, that is a part of Kratos, who is a god, and he's teaching his son Atreus to try to be a man, try to be a god. But one of the big lessons is that he keeps telling him, he basically just says, all gods are terrible. Don't believe gods. Don't like these people. Like he just is straight up and so when he runs into a god that seems like maybe that god is friendly, he constantly has to remind Atreus, like, it doesn't matter. That person's a god. Like it does, like God, all gods suck. It just, that's the way that Kratos is just approaching this at this stage in life after he has slaughtered so many gods that have just done him wrong. And it's the casting is so important because, and in this show, Last Page, we do not like getting into politics or the culture war. Like, it's just, that is to me the number one, the biggest thing on YouTube is just to be culture war people, where you just talk about how much you hate everything that you consider to be woke, or you hate everything that you consider to be something of a bygone era. Like it's just so played. So I don't like getting into that, but you can't avoid it. The fact that it is weird that a story about Norse and Greek mythology, so far they've casted all characters that look like they could be someone that's from that mythology. I mean, it is weird because we have Odyssey, as directed by Christopher Nolan, and they have the person that Helen of Troy, who's apparently played by Lupita Nyong'o. Lupita Nyong'o. I was getting her name mixed up. Anyway, she's described by Odysseus. She's described by Homer as being blue eyes and blonde hair and being like the most beautiful woman that everyone went to war for. And it's just like, so like she's a pretty lady, but
yeah,
why? Like it just doesn't make sense. And it's just one of those things that it just like it's uncomfortable to approach. But at the end of the day, it's like, why are we doing these casting decisions? And it just feels like it's a very modern progressive thing to just, we're going to cast any, like the person that we want to put out there. We don't care what the source material is. And so far, everyone that's been casting God of War looks like someone that is from that ilk. And I think it just plays much better for what you're trying to do. If you're trying to have a story about Greek gods and Norse gods, you should have people that look like they're Vikings and look like they're Greek, or like just some kind of like real ability to kind of sink into that culture. If you just cast a bunch of colorblind characters, if all of a sudden you have the guy that's in everything, he was just at the Super Bowl halftime show.
Bad Bunny?
No. He's Mr. Fantastic. He's
Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal. If he played like Odin, you just be like, okay, I'm sorry. Like, what are we doing here? Stop casting Pedro Pascal. So anyway, it's interesting that the fact that this show is casted Atreus as a boy and Odin it is just interesting to see that that's what they've done, and I'm just curious as to where the story goes from there. It'll be very interesting to see how they handle it. I love the casting. Believe it or not, this is something that will blow Bob Iger's fired ass, quit ass, whatever he is, ass out of the water. They casted the two comedic relief characters that are dwarves in the game as real life dwarves. Two dwarves are actually getting jobs, unlike some CGI monstrosity. Because Tyrion was like, I don't like other dwarves getting jobs. And then now they just were like, oh, we don't want to upset Tyrion. So then they cast a bunch of CGI monsters as dwarves in the Snow White abomination. And then now we get 2 dwarven actors. One of them was from Seinfeld. Danny Woodburn was in an episode of Seinfeld that has a bunch of little people in an episode with Kramer running amok, and Jeff Gulka as Sindri, and that's great. That's wonderful. 2 dwarves in a game as 2 dwarves in real life. Who knew?
Peter Dinklage is punching the air right now. Just, dude, just such a dickhead, man. Like, had nothing, like, just wanted to shit over. I mean, obviously that movie was gonna suck anyway, Snow White, but like, he didn't have anything positive to say, or like, he had nothing positive to contribute to the conversation of like, hey man, like, I would like to see dwarves played. Like, he was just like, oh, you're just gonna make a stupid movie about stupid dwarves being like living in holes. Not like, hey, like maybe we could like, he didn't offer any other idea of like, hey, you could do like I offered, hey, do the story of Snow White. Don't make them less silly and not just like happy dwarf, sad dwarf, and give them stories and like develop the characters, because guess what? There's dwarves in real life. Peter Dinklage, you are one of them. It's okay to have stories about dwarves. So him gatekeeping dwarf stories, just fuck that guy. I don't know what his problem is, but
he's an angry elf. Look at you.
Anyway, yeah, I love that they just leaned into it and they're just like, there's nothing wrong. Those are great characters in the game that with 2 totally distinct personalities. They obviously develop their stories more in God of War Ragnarok, but I think they're awesome, memorable characters, Brock and Sindri, and they're so different. But the way that they bring them together at the end of the first game is awesome, and I'm very happy that they have just committed to it. You're right. It is weird. Like, this is the show that it doesn't make any sense. The same company that gave us Rings of Power, the most insanely diverse Lord of the Rings show, where they just inserted random characters that never existed, changed all their ethnicities. It was just weird, especially like, and so it didn't like, they went from that, and maybe they just learned a lesson of like, hey, people didn't really like that, to the opposite now, where it's just like, hey, we're making a show about Norse gods, and they're gonna look Norse. It's great. I love it. I like to watch things where it's more immersive if I can watch it and be like, it feels like I'm there. They have committed. They have stuck to their guns. That we're going to get characters that look like they're from the fucking game, and that's what we're doing. I love it. I love that they're casting a young Atreus, and they're not doing like a teenage Atreus, because I don't give a fuck about any sort of romance story from him. So please keep that shit away from me for as long as possible. Yeah, very interested to see where they go. I've seen a lot of, as far as discourse online, I've seen a lot of some people, you have like hardcore fans of the original games that are like, I can't believe they're skipping all of the Greek storyline. And I'm like, it doesn't really make for a good TV show unless you just want a show that's just no story, all guts, which would be fun. But like, there's not nearly as much to tell there from a character building standpoint. Yeah, wow. I had zero hopes when they first announced this show. It was dead in the water, dead on arrival. I was just like, it's gonna be stupid. Why are we doing this? The game's great. It's good, stupid. Fuck it. And I am all the way back in. I think if they are really they're putting this much attention to detail and care into casting people that look like this and look like they're really gonna feel like you're playing the game again. Sky's the limit.
It's the fact that they've casted so many of the Ragnarok characters, Max Parker as Heimdall, Teresa Palmer as Sif. Those are characters that show up in the second game, not the first game. So yeah, it's like, oh, what's happening there? But I think that they are going to have a heavy focus on world building. It's not just going to be like a video game. You're just along for the ride as you just go straight forward. They're going to have to build the world and make the gods feel important, and that you know who the gods are before they show up. You don't want all of a sudden in the 5th episode or the 9th episode, all of a sudden Thor shows up and it's like you don't know anything about Thor other than you know the name and you know Thor from MCU. So this show is going to have to build its own Thor. It's going to have to build its own characters to make them feel completely different and unique. And it's like, these are not characters that you're familiar with outside of this show and mythology. So very exciting. It's cool. Again, writing's everything. How they handle the characters, how much care they put into Kratos, and how they make him feel not just like a tragic character, but just the absolute brute rage. And that's really what you sink into Kratos is the moments in the game you get frustrated when you're playing it on hard and you're going crazy and you're getting killed and you just like want to just unleash, and then you just can push the rage buttons and you just start just wrecking fools. Like it, you feel that rage, that primal instinct. That's the best thing about God of War. It's been over 20 years that God of War puts that feeling into you of just like, I'm going to absolutely destroy everyone. It gives you that godlike ability in the game to transcend that feeling of absolute power and absolute rage. And I hope the show does that as well. All I want this show to do is give me God of War. And that's not